What's happening, Hardscapers? This is episode 9 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. Tune in every week as we cover a subject and interview industry leaders on how you can grow your hardscaping business, from new installation methods, techniques, tools, marketing, financials, and so much more. On today's episode, we have Brian Small on the show from Warming Trends. He's here to talk with us about installing fireplaces, fire pits in your outdoor living spaces for your clients, incorporating them into designs, how you can sell them, and just the different products and installations that you need to consider when you are going to be installing a Warming Trends product. So without further ado, here's our interview. Today I am joined by Brian Small. He is a sales rep for Warming Trends. Brian, welcome to the How to Hardscape podcast.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thanks for joining us here. Brian, why don't you just give us a little background about yourself and a little bit of background about Warming Trends?
I have been with Warming Trends for a little over 7 years now. I am now our Vice President of Sales. I actually started as a just contract laborer for the previous ownership of Warming Trends, and I was doing just landscaping jobs for him. But it kind of grew from there, wound up in our shop, making the components for the burner systems, and have essentially just kind of worked my way through different roles at the company. And for the past 4 years now, I've been in a sales position, started as a Northeast kind of regional manager, worked with a few different distribution partners in that area. And now with my geographic location being in Denver, Colorado, we're kind of focusing our efforts a little more on the West Coast. So I've been focusing on trying to establish distribution and a good network of partners on the western part of the U.S. and Canada right now. As far as Warming Trends, we are the premier manufacturer of gas burner systems designed specifically for outdoor fire features. The unit that we make is called the Crossfire Brass Burner. The burner system itself offers a unique take in comparison to a lot of the outdoor gas fire features being used in the industry. We use a jetted technology that produces more flame while using less fuel. Now, depending on which manufacturer you're comparing against, those numbers vary just slightly, but not by much. We have always been proven to outperform any competitive burner systems. We are a truly U.S.-based manufacturer based in Denver, Colorado. We use everything from CNC Swiss lathe technology to water jets to machine all of the components that you'll see via our website, warming-trends.com, or through numerous partners that carry our marketing material throughout North America. The vertical integration allows us to have pretty good mix of customization. So as far as, different style fire features and people really getting creative on products, we have a good scope of product that's just for standard circular, square, rectangular style features, but also have a really great way to essentially create customized products. And it's due to the modular nature of our burner system. The jet technology that we utilize is a patented technology. The system itself, again, producing that taller flame, using less fuel through those jets is that bread and butter point to our product. The last feature we really pride ourselves on, again, is just that U.S.-based manufacturing and our service team being very quick to react when we get inbound inquiries, whether it be requests for quotations, whether it be troubleshooting support, installation support, things like that. We have a great team based out of Denver that does a good job.
Incredible. And I do notice that you guys special in the customization of these burners. Now, if a contractor was to want some custom work done, how soon does that is that manufactured in Denver? And then how soon can a contractor, say, across the country or even into Canada get a burner like that?
Yeah, so standard lead time usually just to get your quotation out is going to be anywhere between 2 to 3 days. And that's usually based on the complexity of the project. So, if we're just building an L-shaped style, insert, it's going to be slightly less time than if you had some, crazy oblong amoeba style looking project that we would need to get maybe some templates sent into our office and then have our design team actually, taking dimensions and everything off of those templates, incorporating it into their CAD detail program, and then essentially sending it back for approval. Once we get the thumbs up to proceed with an order, you'd be looking anywhere between 10 to 14 business days until completion of that project. And again, this is anything from the most random fire feature you've ever seen in your entire life to, you know, a relatively simple, maybe even just configuring some standard product in a little bit different way. So again, that vertical integration really makes a good reaction time from our end as far as getting those custom projects out quickly. To our knowledge, that's not rivaled right now in our industry.
Talking about burners, what kind of warranty do you guys offer on these things?
It's a lifetime warranty. The burner systems themselves are manufactured out of brass. So brass being a non-corrosive material, we do offer a lifetime warranty. We just transitioned. We used to call it a limited lifetime warranty. The reasoning behind that was things like, you know, if somebody were to, let's say, throw one of the burners at the wall and one of the jets were to snap off, that was the kind of stuff that we wouldn't necessarily cover under warranty. But with the lifetime warranty coverage that we offer, again, stuff like that isn't, but it is a lifetime warranty product based on the materials that we're using. And that would be specific to the burner systems. As we get into product a little bit further, we'll talk about ignition systems, and warranties start to vary a little bit once you get into the upgrade options.
For sure. Now, why should contractors be selling Warming Trends products? Why not just sell a typical fire pit, quick build? Why should contractors be focusing on selling Warming Trends products and maybe in comparison to some of your competitors as well?
Yeah, so what we would say is it's really the value add to your project of our product. Our product, again, with that lifetime warranty and with the gas efficiency that jet technology provides, we're able to produce essentially in our mind what a customer is requesting, which is a real fire. Nobody wants to get a gas fire pit feature that looks like, you know, they just took their propane stovetop and put it inside of a fire feature. They want something that's going to simulate what a fire pit would be if you were to throw a bunch of wood inside of a pit. And again, the short and sweet of how we're able to produce the real flame is that jet technology. We're essentially taking our larger manifold and then drilling down to a smaller diameter size hole when we're entering our jets. And in doing that, we're producing a higher velocity on the gas as it's entering it. So it's similar to like a garden hose. If you were to put your thumb over the top of a garden hose, what's going to happen? The water shoots out, you know, faster because you're restricting that point where the actual flow is going to come out. Same concept with our jets. The next level to that is when you get into our jet chamber, you'll see on the side of our jets, we actually have oxygen holes drilled. That oxygen is what's able to produce the orange decorative flame that we produce out of our burner systems. The oxygen, essentially, it's just like the ratio of gas to air mixture in an application like a propane stove. What you'll find is blue flame. So you always see blue flame coming off of those stoves. And that's because they're getting almost the perfect combination of gas and air to get a clean burn and make sure that you're just utilizing, you know, that gas for one thing and one thing alone, and that's just heat. With fire pit features, you're not necessarily just looking to get heat out of them. You also want the ambiance, you want the decorative nature of the flame. And in order for that to mimic what a wood fire would be, you want it to be orange. And that's where the jet technology with those tune jets, proper sized oxygen holes, the oxygen holes are actually specific dependent on gas type, whether it be propane or natural gas. So there's a lot of different aspects to the jet technology and the sizing and everything else that play into it that we've tamed and honed in order to produce that really natural looking flame. But to tie that back to your initial question of, you know, what's the value add to the customers? First one is, you know, really getting that fire that your customer is looking for, really mimicking a true fire. The second aspect is the gas consumption that you'll be using when using our features. So let's use a theoretical situation here. Say a customer has a 20-pound propane tank, which is just like a standard propane tank that you hook up to like a grill. If you were to put our burner system next to another burner system, what you would find is at the same BTU rate coming out of the burners, you would have the same amount of time on that tank, but you would see a much taller flame out of our burner system. If you wanted to restrict our burner system back to the flame heights, that would be the same as one of our competitive burners. So we call them ring burners. If you restrict the flame back, you would actually increase the amount of time on that propane tank by almost 2 times 2. So you're going to increase the length you could burn. Let's say it was 4 hours. You would increase it to 8 hours with our system. And again, this is all dependent on customer preference. So if a customer wants big flame, again, they're going to use the same amount of gas, same timing, and they'll get that bigger flame that they're looking for. If they don't necessarily want the big flame, maybe it's a nice summer night, it's kind of warm outside, they just want it for ambiance more than the heating aspect of the fire feature, that's when they can tone it back and they can increase the amount of time on the tank that they're using. As far as our kind of more personal touch to the matter, fire pits to us are, a focal point. It's a gathering point. And when you're talking about building, an outdoor kitchen, an outdoor living space for one of your customers, the, addition of a fire feature, a fire pit, something that people can gather around, in our mind is almost an automatic. You're really adding an additional room to your home. And when winters hit, especially when you get into the northern states, Canada, anywhere in the northern United States, we're based out of Denver, so we have some colder winters here as well. But with that being said, you can get into those fall months this time of year, and you can still utilize that outdoor living space via, the heat produced by the fire pit, spend the amount of, time that you can actually enjoy, that addition to your home, which costs these people anywhere from, let's say, $10,000 to $200,000. And when you're talking about significant investments like that, you want to try to make sure that your customers are, getting the most bang for their buck and enjoying that outdoor living space as much as possible. The other, thing we kind of joke about a little bit here, but it's not, it's not exactly a joke, is we live in a world anymore that's kind of filled with, screens and technology, and, you're either in front of a TV, computer, phone. And when you put a fire pit outside, a lot of the times you wind up actually sitting down and interacting with each other, which is, something you don't see quite as much anymore. It's an aspect to the product that we feel like is a little more on the emotional front. This is an interesting story, but I have a gentleman who I actually had a class with, and we were talking about this the other day. And he brought up a story about his sons, and some of his sons are in school still. A couple of them work with him, but, he felt like most of the time they'd come home, it'd be either right up to the room or plop down right in front of the TV. You're right in front of your screens, and you're back to just focused on nothing but, again, your technology. He brought up an interesting aspect where he said, there's nights where I'll come home, I go outside, turn on my fire pit, grab a beer really quick, sit down, and sure enough, his sons come home. They see he's out sitting around the fire pit, and instead of jumping straight to screens or going to TV and stuff, they'll come out, they'll sit around, they'll talk about how their days were, things like that. And it's that aspect of the fire features. And to be fair, this has nothing to do in comparison to our competition. This is all just about the actual, benefit of a fire feature to almost like, we joke and say, mental health. But it's something that allows you to, unwind with people and just maybe actually connect and feel a little more interpersonal relationship with people rather than, again, sitting in front of your screens and not doing a whole lot.
It's a whole extra room in their house that they're using there. This outdoor living space that you're selling them on, and incorporating that story that you told is such a good way to talk about this outdoor living space for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and you can apply it so many different ways. That story, it doesn't have to be maybe quite as heart wrenching as one story, but even having friends over and if you install an outdoor kitchen with grills and everything else, and you barbecue and then everybody kind of goes back inside, it's like, wow, you want some patio furniture, you want a, pit out there, you want something that, just extends being out there, being outside, being cooped up indoors is all right for some. I feel like a lot of people enjoy being outside though.
Now, this is a little bit of a difficult question because it really depends on the size of burner, the size of flame the customer wants, but do you guys have numbers in terms of what this is going to kind of cost the customer? Say if they want to be outside for 1 hour for a fire, how much gas is going to be used in that 1 hour fire, or what is it going to cost? And I know, the prices are going to vary throughout the country and in North America for that, but are there any numbers in terms of gas usage during that time and how much this might cost the customer?
So it's kind of difficult to say what you just kind of went down, right? Gas prices vary, all the different factors of fire pit size and everything. What I could say is, we offer a bestseller catalog, which is, our high runners. Within those high runners, probably the most standard size fire pit you'd see out there is roughly a 30-inch, inside diameter or inside opening. And that burner system provided by Warming Trends can vary anywhere from 65,000 BTUs to 180,000 BTUs based on the recommended burner systems that are put inside of those features. Now, the reason why it varies from 65 to 180,000 BTUs is what type of unit is being used. So the Matchlight systems, if you're looking to receive a certified burner unit, have to be restricted to 65,000 BTU per CSA and ANZ code, the standard, how it's written. The burner itself has the capability of letting out 180,000 BTUs, and if there's an electronic ignition incorporated into that burner, you can produce that 180,000 BTUs out of the burner and still be compliant with those CSA and ANZ standards. The gas bill for that, and again, that's all very specific to how high you're burning the flame. So if you just had that burner on full blast the entire time, then that propane tank is going to burn out quicker than what you would see with a lower flame height coming out of the unit. So if we set on average, probably, let's say 6 hours roughly, would be what you'll see out of a propane tank, with the ability to kind of push more BTUs out of the burner. So again, not just restricted to that 65,000 BTU mark, but we'll say roughly around 6 hours. So say it costs maybe $20 to run your burner system for about 6 hours with propane. And then with natural gas, that's kind of a tough one, because Xcel and, the different utility companies that are doing that. So I'm not certain. I can tell you, feedback we get from our customers is normally that they don't see an impact to their gas bills based on incorporating the fire pit feature. Now, how many times are they using that, in a month? Do they use it 3? Is there another person that uses it almost every night? Obviously, that's going to impact gas bill differently as well.
For sure, and it's always good to get that note from existing customers that they're not seeing a major impact in their bills, because I know I've been asked by customers, how much is this going to cost me to run a fire, because they're comparing it to those propane tank systems, and they're thinking it's going to be costly as opposed to not having a fire pit at all, or just having an open fire pit. So it's always great to get those comparisons from you as well. And you mentioned a lot of different things there, ignition systems and and plates and burners. And for somebody who has no background experience in installing one of these systems, it can be quite confusing. So I want to get into the installation with you, and starting with when you're sitting with a customer and you're walking them through, choosing their Warming Trends unit. What are you showing them? Other than the burner, what's going to go into building this fire pit for them?
Yeah, so we have some really good resources for things like this, but one of which is what we kind of call your how to build your fire feature. And it's almost like a checklist of questions that our team asks when somebody reaches out to get a quotation or just get more information on the fire pit. So, your first question is normally going to be, what's the size of your fire feature? Say the customer comes back, we'll use that 30-inch dimension as the example. But so your first question is, what's the inside diameter or size? They say, yeah, it's going to be approximately 30-inch inside dimension. Based on that, a lot of manufacturers are going to have, standard product offerings available based on the different sizes of fire features. When we're talking about different resources that can be utilized, like on our website, again, warming-trends.com, we have a tab called resources. You can go straight there. You can go into our bestseller catalog. You can go into our full catalog, and you'll see like on the first, pretty much the first page outside of the cover pages is that 6 steps to purchasing. So again, inside dimension, based on that, you size your plate, which again, 30-inch inside diameter, you're going to be looking at a 30-inch plate for that system. We usually try to recommend to customers that they make the plate approximately 1 inch smaller than the opening of the fire feature. And we do that so that they have a little bit of wiggle room to drop that plate in. So the 1/2-inch gap that's going to be created by the plate to the inside edge of the pit, that's not going to be big enough to allow any of the recommended media that we offer to fall through. So again, we just make that recommendation to size it an inch smaller. Once that's done, that's when you get to your burner system. So you're going to have to choose the actual burner system that you'd like to pick, along with specifying the gas type. So you want to make sure that you're asking them, is it natural gas or propane? Again, pretty consistent across most manufacturers in our industry that gas type is going to change the burner system in some aspect. Your next step, once you've chosen your burner system, is essentially picking the ignition style that you're going to use. So those different ignition styles can be match light systems. It can be push button systems, which essentially are just like sparking probes. So similar to like how you use a gas grill, you push the little button that sparks, it lights your burner. Same concept, except for on a gas fire pit. Your next level up from that would be kind of a more sophisticated battery operated system. We call that our 3VIK, or our 3-volt ignition kit. That system does utilize D-cell batteries, 2 D-cell batteries, but it offers what we call kind of like the next level of ignition and safety, which is it will shut off gas flow and essentially turn the burner system off if flame is not present. So it's monitoring that flame is present via a pilot assembly and different components like thermocouples or thermopiles to shut down that gas flow if it doesn't sense heat. Again, safety feature, it makes sure that you're not just going to have gas roaring out of a burner system if wind or something were to blow those burner systems out. The next levels would be our 24-volt ignition systems. We offer 2 right now, 2 different styles, which is what we call our spark ignition and our hot surface ignition. Spark ignition, it utilizes kind of like a spark plug boot assembly to produce the actual spark that's going to light the pilot and in turn light the system. The hot wire or the hot surface ignition, those units have what we kind of call a glow plug, and that glow plug heats up. So it glows, gets incredibly hot to light the gas. So it doesn't use an arc or a spark. It uses that glow plug igniter to light the pilot. There's benefits to both systems. The spark ignitions are slightly less expensive than the hot wire ignitions. The hot wire ignitions have proven to be just a little more durable when it comes to the outdoor environment, based on the fact that when the arc needs to be created, if there's any type of corrosion that builds up on those pilots or anything, the arc doesn't get produced across, the section where it needs to be produced as well, versus the hot wire ignition systems not meeting that. As far as warranties are concerned on those, the ignition systems that we offer, and it depends on the type that you purchase, but our most common ignition is probably our hot wire ignition. And that unit is a 3-year residential warranty. So if it's being used in a residential application, which is pretty common as far as where they're purchased, the residential warranty is 3 years. The commercial warranty on those units, I believe, is still a year. And that's when it's being used in hotels, restaurants, places essentially where the unit is probably going to have a little more wear and tear on it based on the amount of usage that it's going to incur being used, anywhere between 7 days a week, maybe 5 days a week, things like that. The next level to your purchasing of the unit would be choosing your add-ons if you elect to go with electronics. So that would be things like dial timers, remotes, emergency shut-off buttons, different things like that tie into the ignition and essentially become the operating point of it. The last step is selecting your media. So the accessories that you're going to use on the pit, that can be everything from just standard like lava rock, red or black. We offer a rolled lava rock, so it's kind of tumbled into a smoother finish. That's proven to be pretty popular for us recently. Things like ceramic log sets. So, those are different manufacturers have different styles they make, but can be concrete logs that mimic, basically real wood. And then we also offer steel log sets. So those are pretty unique in the sense of what we do is we take steel pipe, and that will range anywhere between, let's say, 2 to 5 inch diameter size pipe. And we actually fabricate the logs to resemble a steel log set. So like an actual log set, outdoor log set. Price ranges on all of those different accessories vary pretty heavily. Lava rock is probably your least expensive media or accessory option. The steel log sets are probably on the higher end as far as price points. We have also actually rolled out last year a new product line that we call our Firestorm log sets. And those are still steel logs, but what we've done is actually integrated the burner inside of the log itself. And then the cuts, the plasma cuts that we use to kind of make the logs realistic, the flame actually rolls out of those cuts. It's a really unique product and something that's definitely worth looking into as far as our product line is concerned.
So a hardscaper who wants to build a fire pit out of a particular wall product they really enjoy installing, they can have all of this customized to fit that fire pit, or would it be better for them to create the fire pit specific to the burners, to the plates that you guys have to offer already?
The short and sweet answer would be, if you review our standard product offering and just build to that standard product, it's going to save you, a little bit of money, but not anything too substantial. You'll see a lot of these different, paver, wall block kind of companies. Usually most of them right now offer some style fire pit. In those situations, most of those fire pits have almost a predetermined inside dimension that pit's going to wind up being. Based on that, our kits are easily customized in the sense of all you're really changing at that point is the plate. And with our vertical integration, that water jet technology we utilize, we can customize those plate sizes incredibly quick and at a reasonable price point, but it's actually going to be higher than what the standard kit costs. And that's all just based on the manufacturing process, right? So high runner standard product, those are being manufactured in bulk quantities. Based on that, we're able to get our, price points, our MSRPs on those slightly reduced in comparison to when we're doing a more one-off style cut on a plate, that's when price points go up slightly, because we're needing to reprogram, renest, the plate layout and everything for a machine. That kind of information sometimes is helpful for contractors, just when they're explaining to their customers, like, well, I'm buying a 28-inch plate. Why does it cost more than my 30-inch plate? And a lot of the time, customers struggle to really understand why less material would cost more. But it's just the actual manufacturing process to create those. So to go back to your question, what I would say is, if you can build it based off of our standard size plates, definitely, do it. It'll save you just a little bit of money. If you are getting like a predetermined block set or something like that, though, don't worry too much about the charge that is additional in comparison to the standard kit, because it's pretty minimal when you look at the overall scope of the project.
For sure. And when installing natural gas, I know it's different from region to region. Each place has their own, codes and everything that you need to adhere to. But is there a pretty typical installation method that you've seen again and again in terms of, hiring a gas fitter to come out to do the work for you if you're a hardscaper? And in terms of that process, is it fairly similar across North America?
Absolutely. And I would say you summarized it pretty well by saying, just using the gas installer, right? What I would say is, if you're really starting a landscaping project, from zero, right? Zero scape all the way up, the planning phase is definitely important for the fire features, just as it is for, the kitchen island with all the grills and different appliances that may require electrical and gas. A lot of the times what we run into is the situation where, there was maybe a grill or something that had already been plumbed out, and people are just looking to put in a fire pit. They take that line that's been run to that gas grill, they just splice off of it, stub right off of it, and then run the additional gas line, out to where they want to place that fire feature. Those types of installs usually wind up with starved gas supplies to the fire features. And what I mean by that is, if the burner system required, let's say, 180,000 BTUs, and you ran a half-inch gas line, let's just say 100 feet after you spliced everything, you're only going to have approximately 50,000 BTUs at the burner. When you do that, what happens is you reduce the performance of the actual burner system. So the burner system is now going to burn a much lower flame than what it would if you were at the maximum BTU rating of the burner of the 180,000 BTUs. Actual common installation, I would say, outside of the classic gas grill stub off, usually is when they're restarting an outdoor project and, doing everything from, hardscaping the patio to building the kitchen and everything. And in those situations, normally what we'll see done is, if you have a plumber that's relatively easily accessible and they come out, they can just run the gas line before you do any of your, concrete pouring or bricklaying, things like that. But there's other contractors we see that'll actually just rough in the piping. So they'll use anything from like a PVC sleeving or something like that to actually just reserve where the gas line is going to be run. And in those situations, all we really say is, put in a relatively big line as far as, the PVC or whatever type of tubing you would use to get out there. That way, when it comes time for your plumber to actually run the gas line, if he's got to go under a patio or something like that, you don't have to worry about potentially restricting the size pipe that he can run because you ran a smaller PVC. The other thing we always recommend as far as prep would be, if you talk to the customer initially and they know that they're not going to want electronic ignition, then you don't have to run like a conduit or, electrical line out to the feature. but same kind of situation as the PVC pipe. You know, if you run some extra tubing underground before you start pouring concrete or doing stuff like that, it's going to potentially save you a lot of headaches in the future, because at least you have it, and better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
I understand, you know, prepping this is absolutely important and into making sure that the installation goes well. And we talked a little bit about, you know, planning your lines, planning the routes. Also, another thing, I guess, would be location from any structure. In some places, that's pretty important. Is there anything else in this pre-planning stage that people should kind of consider as well?
What I would really say, and I feel like a lot of manufacturers would appreciate this, but, you know, never hesitate to reach out if you have questions as far as, you know, your build, designs, all of it. The, you know, companies like Linzell, distribution partners that carry so many different product lines usually have great information that they can provide, and they can do it on a wide range of products that you actually will be using on the project, everything from lighting to the actual gas fire pit features to grills to water features, things like that. So that's where it's just when you're at that planning stage, usually it doesn't take long for you to get in almost like a rhythm with manufacturers. You know, for instance, say you really love Warming Trends products, and you're going to consistently be using those products on future projects. Once you work through a couple of installations and a couple of designs and everything, it becomes incredibly easy to use the product. It's just those first couple learning curves. And then every once in a while, you may run into a funky custom situation or whatever it may be that you need to reach out and consult. But again, as far as most manufacturers are concerned, I think, you know, we'd rather you just reach out and ask the question initially than just kind of, you know, fly through the project and it winds up, you know, we're telling you, hey, unfortunately, you know, you're really what you're saying is your customer may not be satisfied at the end of the day with how this particular appliance is going to perform. You know, in our case, it's the fire pit. And this is kind of a side note, but the fire pit always seems to be like the last thought for some reason. And it's weird because you actually have an increase right now as far as the amount of fire pits that are being designed into projects by architects and the requests overall to actually have them on a project. But the afterthought is like in the actual installation of the fire feature itself. So how to install it, how to size the gas line properly. Holy crap, I didn't even know that you could actually put an electronic ignition to a fire pit and operate it with a light switch, things like that. So it's really easy to, you know, jump on Google really quick and, you know, type in fire pit manufacturers and look for those answers.
Absolutely. And that sounds like as good enough as any place to stop this interview and say, Brian, thank you so much for joining us here on the How to Hardscape podcast. We've covered a lot of great things from Warming Trends products, installation, prep work, and even ways that you can sell Warming Trends to your customers. Brian, thank you so much for joining us here.
You got it, Mike. We really appreciate it.
And Brian, I'll just give you the floor. Where can our audience find out more about Warming Trends and see how they can include Warming Trends on their next project?
Yep. So you can find us on all the different social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Best resource is, again, www.warming-trends.com. And that's Warming Trends. Trends is plural. If you'd like, you can always reach out to our main office at 303-346-2224.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Visit us at howtohardscape.com for more information on this subject and check out Warming Trends. That's warming-trends.com and learn more about everything that we talked about. There's lots of information in this episode. and maybe you want to listen to it again to see everything that you can offer your customers in their next outdoor living space. We would love it if you would subscribe and leave us a review, a rating on this podcast. Again, this really helps us get this podcast out there into more people's ears and to bring more guests onto the show. We look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.